Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you might be watching this. So thankful that you're joining us today. I'm Matt Pierce. I'm the Learning and Video Ambassador for Techsmith Corporation. You might know us if you're familiar with programs like Snagit or Camtasia. Today, we're going to be talking about your voice. Even if you don't love your voice, especially if you don't love your voice. But before we get into that, a couple things I want to take just a minute to let you guys know about and remind you about. First of all, if you've not seen the Techsmith Academy, it's a free learning platform. It's going to teach you all about things like writing scripts, storyboards, getting better audio, and there's advice from others in there as well, experts who have spent a lot of time in their craft that we've done interviews with that they're going to share their knowledge with you. So go check that out at academy.techsmith.com. Again, it's a free resource. The other thing I want to mention, if you tuned in a little bit early, you saw the pre-roll that Techsmith has a really great offer right now for anyone who's been affected by the crazy things we're all dealing with around COVID-19, that if you go to techsmith.com, I can bring up here for you guys just a quick image, a URL basically, so that way you can get the things that you need to get some help. So we're offering a 90-day version of Snagit and video review for free. So that way you guys will be able to get that. Now, it doesn't look like I got my thing quite set up correctly, so I won't be able to put the bit.ly up there. I'll put it in, drop it in the chat, and let you guys get that here in just a second. But if you need some screen capture tool, you need some help with video stuff, check out that offer, because we really want to help in these kind of crazy times. So go to that bit.ly, that will get you to that, more information about that. So today we're going to be talking about your voice. How many of you out there don't like hearing yourself? I know it's tough. Like, I have to do this kind of a lot, and I realize my voice isn't I'm not the Morgan Freeman out there that's got the beautiful kind of just rich sounds. I'm a little bit nasally. I come from Michigan, got a Midwest Michigan accent, which is a little nasally. But you know what? What I've realized is, even though I don't love my voice, I've realized that I can work with what I've got. So we're going to talk about that. A couple of disclaimers though. First of all, I'm not a voice or speech therapist. If you have things about your voice that you really are unhappy with that might benefit from some speech therapy, I'd recommend you talk to a speech therapist with like slurring, lisping. I got some of that. It's not so bad that I worry about it, but I would recommend you go talk to someone that's an expert. The other thing that I want to convey here is I am not a voiceover professional. I do a lot of work with audio. I talk a lot on camera. I've done some podcasts. I've done things like that, but I'm not trying to get you to the level today of being the voiceover guy for the movies, where they lean into the microphone. In a world where everything has gone wrong. We're not trying to do that, right? Like, there's techniques for doing that. I'm not here to teach you that. But we're going to talk about some practice advice today about what you can do with what you've got as a voice. Some of it is kind of just rah-rah advice, to be honest, and some of it's more practical things that can only help. And so if you really want to get good, you want to go into voiceover, there's other people that you can go and listen to. So I just want to be clear about the intent of our session today. But I think the good thing is, anyone who wants to make video, you can. You can trust the voice that you have, and it can be good enough for your audience. And so I'd really recommend, this is where we're going to start. If you're in the chat, go ahead and just go ahead. I'm going to watch it, right? So just tell me, do you love your voice? Do you like the way your voice sounds when you hear it recorded, whether just on audio or in a video? Do you like the way it plays back? Most people I talk to, and I've spoken at a lot of different conferences, I usually ask this question, and most people are like, oh. There's always a couple of people like, yeah, I really like my voice. And some people have great voices and they've worked on it and they've trained it, or they've just naturally gifted in that way. Again, I'm not one of those people. But here's the thing I want to say. If you don't love your voice, you're not alone. However, it's okay. Your voice is a perfectly acceptable, good voice. And that's the thing you need to remember. If you don't remember anything else, remember that your voice is okay. And here's why it's okay. Because it's the only voice you've got. I mean, you can go get other people to do work for you, to do voiceovers and things like that. But if you have to make a simple video, you're going to turn on your phone and record a selfie video, or you're going to share some process with someone, answer a question for someone, they're going to recognize your voice the way it sounds. The way you are currently hearing my voice today is the same as you hear it as if we were in the same room. I mean, there's a little compression, there's a little things going on because we're streaming live across the world. But for me, if I go back, when I will go back and listen to this again, when I play it back, it's going to sound different to me. And there's some really important physiology here that you need to understand that will hopefully help you feel a little bit more at ease. The first thing is that when you're talking, you're generating all these sound waves, right? Sound waves are going from my vocal cords, in my mouth, my tongue, my teeth, and going out. And so when you hear it, it's vibrating the air, vibrates the air, and it hits your ears and goes in. There's no other distortion happening unless it's bouncing off in an echoey room or something like that. But here's the thing. When I talk, or when you're doing your own speaking and you're being recorded, you've got all this stuff here. You got your collarbone, you got your neck, you got your head bone, your jaw, and it's all getting those are all going through into your ear, into your inner ear where it's getting picked up, right? So you're filtering your own voice. And that's why it sounds different to you than it does to me. So when I speak and I listen to this back, the playback, it's going to sound different because I've got all this filter as I speak. But when it's coming from the computer, the microphone doesn't have any of that filter. So your voice is the same. You just hear it differently. It's different sounding for you, but for everyone else in your circle, everyone else that's going to watch that video, that's how you sound. And that's why, first thing out of the gate, you need to be just okay. And I know it's still going to be hard. I really understand it's going to be hard. You just need to be okay with the voice that you have because you sound like you. Now, what are the benefits of having your voice be the voice? Well, if you're an expert in something, let's say you know everything about how to do pivot tables in Excel. And someone's asking you a question about how do I do this manipulation, whatever. They're going to want to hear your voice because they know they can trust your voice. So I think it's a very simple concept. And I know it takes time to get comfortable with that. But I want you to just start saying to yourself, my voice is good enough. This is going to work. I saw a couple questions. I want to make sure that I get through them. So first of all, that if you're getting some skipping, I apologize. I'm at home, working from home like a lot of other people, and it looks like my bandwidth is trying to keep up. I've shut a lot of things down. In fact, I took everything away from the family in the house that I could. I'll try shutting a few more things. Maybe at some point we can try my Wi-Fi. I apologize for the lag. A couple other questions here. The question is, does it accent matter? Accents are hard kind of things to determine if it matters. I think it depends on your end audience. If they are someone who is going to watch and have a hard time with the accent, then it matters, right? If that's unfamiliar to them, or if for some reason it feels like they're having a hard time with the enunciation. Let me try something here, guys. I'm gonna, I don't think I can do much to get it to move any smoother. So I apologize for that. Looks like I can see my preview. It's just we're gonna power through this, though, as they say. So I apologize again for any stuttering or whatnot. But so accents really, again, are a tricky thing. I think there are some things you can do if you have an accent. One is go slow. Assume that your audience that you're talking to doesn't understand and that you just need to slow down. You don't need to get louder. That's a very common thing. You just need to go slower and then really enunciate the words, right? Spend the time to really make sure that you're being as clear. So someone on LinkedIn was joking with me about Scottish accent, and Scottish accents, depending, can be very thick. If you're not used to listening to a Scottish person speak, it can obviously be a challenge. What's going on? But so one, go slow with that, but also watch your slang. If you're saying words that you're familiar with, but your audience is not, that could be a challenge. So I know even like just US and the UK, right? Some of the different words you might choose to use are important. And so you want to think about those words and make sure that you're not saying something that's unfamiliar to your audience, especially with an accent, because then they'll be like, this is a common example in the UK, the trunk of a car, what I would call the trunk of a car is the boot, right? So if I didn't know that and someone was talking about a boot, that would be strange. I'd be like, what are they talking about? And it might make it more difficult. So be careful with your accent. It's, if you have a really thick accent, just slow it down. Practice a couple times what you make sure you got your words right. And maybe even then, if you have a chance, talk to someone in that target audience that has a different accent than you and see what they have struggled with. Ask them, like, what are the words that you typically have a difficulty understanding? But I think with those couple things that can really help, but you have to be conscious of it, that if your audience is going to be, different than yours, different accent than yours, you just want to be thoughtful about their needs, because the video most times is not about you, it is about them. So definitely take your time, go slow, practice a little bit, work on your enunciation, and then go from there. So Amy says, other people like hearing my voice, I am told, but I can't stand to listen it played back. That is a very common feeling. I feel that way when I have to watch my own videos back. It can feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hear this because I don't like it. The trick here is, I don't know that there is a trick, right? I don't think there's anything you can do. The good news is people say they like listening to your voice. So that's what's most important. From there, what I would really recommend that you do is just do it a lot, because I have found my own personal experience that just by doing it a lot, listening to myself when I was editing my own podcast, when I was editing videos for tutorial videos for Camtasia and Snagit, when I've made videos for our Techsmith Academy, you'll get used to it. It will become more familiar. You might not love it. You might not. But you will get used to it. Just keep doing it, stick with it, or pretend it's someone else. Doesn't have to be you. They just sound kind of close to you. And that, do whatever you have to do mentally to get through it, because I understand that fear. And I really recommend that, there's no secret here to doing that. You just got to do it. So those are some of the mental things. I think a lot about voiceover if you're just getting started, whether you're an educator, you're creating training content, you're doing technical support, and you're recording videos or making audio recordings. It's just the mental game of, I have to hear myself. I don't like it. Ugh, right? Well, I get it. I really, really do. So you got to get over it. And I know that's hard advice, and you might not that's not why you're probably here. But the first step is just get over it, lean into it, and you'll be fine. You really, really will. Now, there are some other things that we can talk about, though, that I think just will help. It might not change the actual sound quality of your voice, whether it's low or high or anything else. I think the thing that you're looking for, though, is just making it sound better. One of my first piece of advice is this. You should get yourself some water. And before the day you're going to record something, make sure you're drinking lots of water. In fact, the other thing is take lots of drinks of water during. You're helping your vocal cords loosen up a little bit. It makes your mouth a little bit looser, so you're not getting the dry sounds. Those are things you want to make sure you're preparing yourself. Just like if you were singing or you're going to go out on stage and perform, you'd want to make sure you've done yourself a favor and prepared. In addition to water, you could do hot water, or hot tea could be good. What you want to avoid, though, are things like milk, dairy products, and other things that are going to constrict you and make you feel kind of tight in here. Because even if you don't like the sound of your voice, that's just going to help you speak more freely. You're going to be able to use the muscles in your mouth and your tongue to get the placement in a good spot, so you can execute the way that you want to. So water is really a really good friend, though. So a couple other things here that we can go through. And if there's other questions, feel free to put the question here in the chat. Lisa, thank you for that. The audio sounds fine. Good to know. I don't love my voice, but oh well, I'm fine with it. So a couple other things that you can do is just your posture of how you're sitting, right? Like, it looks like, boy, I'm really stuttering there on YouTube. So I think, really think about your posture, what you're doing. You want to make sure you're sitting up, like you're going to have to practice this because it's going to feel uncomfortable. Or even better than sitting up, and I'm not going to do it because I don't want to lift everything up right now, but you should stand. You want to open up the diaphragm. You want to be able to get as much air into your lungs as you can. And you're going to want to breathe so that way you can control what's coming out. Then you can do stuff like play with the volume, play with the amount of projection you do or things like that. So you want to just really start thinking about what it is that, how you're sitting, how you're standing, what you're doing with your hands. I'm a hand talker. As you can tell, I keep waving around, It's good to have purpose with your hands, but if you're normally a hand talker, you talk like this, keep talking with your hands. Keep doing that so that you get your most natural expression, even if you're reading a script. And I think this is really important. Sometimes what happens is we get our stuff and we're like, okay, I'm going to read my script and I want to hold it like this, and you start going through it. Whatever. But we read it like we're reading and not like we're talking. You will sound better if you're being more natural. And that, one thing to say about that is if you're writing a script, write it in natural language. There are times when you have to be formal. There's compliance issues, or there's regulatory issues or legal issues that you have to have it be very specific. But for the most part, people are going to respond to your voice and what you're saying when it's naturally said. So contractions, thinking about those things. And it's much easier to say, and you're going to be happier with what you're saying if you're just doing it naturally anyway. So again, posture, breathing, water are all really good things that you do. The other thing is, and I don't want to blow the microphone out here, but the thing, if you're too close to your microphone, you can get the plosives. And if you're too far away, it might not sound as good either, right? It might sound distant. So you want to think about when you're posturing yourself and putting yourself in the position, where is the microphone going to be? And if you have a headset, there's things like with this type of microphone I've got right here, I'm thinking like this. So I'm just taking my thumb to my pinky and I'm trying to stay approximately this far away. And it's up a little bit so I don't have to bend over. I can keep my posture. The pickup on this microphone's right here. So I want it up like this neck and have the microphone boom out like this so then I can talk across it, and that can work really well. You'll have to play with your microphone setup, whatever it is. And that's not really the point today. The point is that microphone placement and distance and location can affect the way you sound. So if you're feeling like, oh, it doesn't sound good, it doesn't sound very full, or you play with how close you are, and where you want to be. That could be really, really, really helpful. So it's just going to make you sound a little bit clearer, a little bit better than if you're further away. It's all good to help your audience hear you better, because this is what it's about. It's about them. It's about your audience and what you're telling them. So I want to jump over to a question here real quick. Another accent question, actually. What if English is not my first language and I have a strange Slavic accent? Should I make it somehow funny or try to hide it? Interesting question. I think before I want to answer that, but first thing I want to say to that is you have to understand your audience. You have to know who's going to be, like, who do you think is watching? Who are you trying to target? And this is for whatever type of video you might be creating. And then you want to lean into their needs. If it's a tutorial or a learning content, you're creating educational materials, I probably wouldn't do either of those. I would say like, hey, this is who I am, and then work through the process of helping them to do the best you can to help them to understand you. Now, I get sometimes accents can be hard, but I think what you want to do, if it's a serious topic, lean into the seriousness. Now, if you're going for comedy or something like that, there's all sorts of things you can do. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to put yourself in a position for people to disbelieve you. So if you got an accent, it's okay. That's really okay. The world is a global place where, we've got a lot of things going on in the globe that we're used to hearing people more and more. If you're targeting a highly American audience, you might want to look at like, okay, what is it? What are their needs? How do they understand me? Some of the things I said earlier in the video, you can go back and watch. I talked about already, but I'm a kid. I grew up when I was a kid in the 80s, I watched a lot of sketch comedy, right? Like Kids in the Hall, Saturday Night Live. I think Ben Stiller even had a show. These are all very American shows, I know. And I used to love performing and doing accents and stuff like that. I'd listen to Dana Carvey, do these presidential impressions and stuff like that. And I loved it. But as much as I love those, I would not try to put on a false sense of like, that's who I am, especially unless I was trying to do comedy or something like that. But no one really wants to hear me break out into my fake bad Scottish accent. So we won't do it. But so I think, Julius, I think that's the thing I would say is don't try to hide it. I mean, if you want to if there's ways that you have to kind of bring it down a little bit so it's not as strong, you have to play with that and understand your audience. So a couple other people saying hi in there. Someone's asking to remove a zzz sound from the audio recording. Going to need way more information about what that is, and that might be something we're not going to address today because we're really talking about the voice today, less about the hardware equipment. Welcome, Jason Vlad. Good to see you there. Colin says, I simply use robot voices. I hate my own voiceovers. That's a really good point. And I think we're going to see more and more of this in the future, that there is what's called text-to-speech options where you type in the text and the computer will read it for you. There's going to, think about things like Amazon, what they're doing, or Cortana, or Google's Assistant. We're going to see that there's going to be these more natural language, artificial intelligences. And I don't mean that they're going to write stuff or say stuff, but you're going to give them the script and they're going to be able to read it. Right now, that's a choice you still have to make. I'm still of the opinion, and just an opinion, that I would much rather hear from you personally, even if it's not, you don't love your voice, than one of those assistants, because those say to me robot, and I'm not there yet. But that's just me. There might be good time and place, like you're going on, on the fly, on the cheap, and things are changing all the time, so it's just easier than doing a voiceover. But I still prefer the human voice over those because it just feels more natural. But it's a good point that those are there as an option, and you can do it. But it's something that you're just gonna have to kind of weigh pros and cons and see what, again, goes back to your audience and what they think of what you sound like, or your robot assistant. Jason Vlad, good question, Jason. Thanks for bringing it up. How about pacing? Pacing is super, super important, right? I have an issue where I get going and I go fast, right? But if you're doing a pre-recorded video, here's what I recommend. I'm gonna take my own advice at this point. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna take a breath. And now I'm gonna reset myself to go a little bit slower and be a lot more professional. You can hear what's happening as I relax a little bit, right? I was getting excited before and I was going fast. And what happens is my vocals go up a little bit as my pitch goes up. And then that means it's going to maybe be less pleasant on the ear. So hopefully this even sounds better to you. And I didn't do anything. I just took a breath, and I purposely, consciously, I have to think about it. I'm trying to slow it down because it's making me and forcing me to come down a little bit and kind of my register. And it's a good technique. It can really help. When I'm on camera and I get going, I get excited to talk about this stuff, so I speed up. And that's a very natural inclination. But when you're thinking about your voice and you're thinking about what you sound like, maybe it's partly that you get going and you're raising up your voice up here because you're super excited. Just doesn't matter, male, female, doesn't matter. Just bring down a little bit, slow down. And I'm not changing my voice. I'm not trying to purposely massage it to sound a different way. I'm just really going a little bit slower and slowing down. It feels a little bit more comfortable, especially if I'm teaching someone. I want you to understand. I want you to listen. I want you to be able to hear and comprehend. So great, Jason, great question. Thanks for bringing that one up. So Grant is asking a really interesting question about how can I use your voice better? Grant, if you are still with us, I would love to know what you're thinking about. Like when you say use it better, what comes to your mind? I think I know what you mean, but I would love to have further conversations about that just with clarity rather than diving in and saying stuff and then have it be completely wrong. So I'll come back to that if you could add maybe some clarifications in there. Another question, how do I shape up my non-native English? So my son is currently in Mexico learning Spanish. He's been there for about 6 months and fully immersed, didn't know Spanish going in. And it's the thing that I've learned from him. I've not been with him. I've not seen him during this time. But in talking with him, one of the big things that he's talked about is that daily, consistent practice. So if you're really interested, your voice, non-native, a lot of non-natives in here today, go ahead and just practice. Jason brings up another tip that's also good is smile. It can change the intonation and the feeling of what you're talking about because you're happy. If you're scowling, you're sad, it's gonna, it doesn't sound, you're gonna probably do other things with your voice because you're grumpy but smiling you can feel it through the microphone, and they should feel it through the microphone, right? We are in a ways whenever we're making something, we are just like we're presenting to an audience. We just can't see them yet. They will see you if you're on video, if you're doing audio, they'll feel the smile. So another great tip as well. Daniel, thank you for that. Daniel Foster from Techsmith, Jason Vlad. I should mention at this point, because we're at almost 2:30, at 3 o'clock today, I want you guys to know that we're having open office hours for Snagit and Camtasia. So Jason Vlad is one of our customer education folks. Daniel Foster is product manager for Snagit. They're going to be in Zoom, and they're going to be providing you guys with basically Q&A time. So if you got questions about things that you want to learn about with Camtasia or Snagit, you can talk to them. Jason and Daniel, if you want to drop in those links, you're welcome to. If not, I totally understand as well. You can find it on our social channels. We've been promoting those office hours. It's a great way to learn product in addition to what we're doing here today. Again, our goal is to just help everyone out there. We know people are kind of thrown into weird situations. We want to help you to learn. If you're just joining us, a couple caveats again, I want to say about if you don't like your voice. One is I am not a speech therapist. If you're interested in fixing real challenges that you have with speaking, with slurs or, sounds that, like your tongue can't get in the right place, you may need, there's exercises out there that you can go look up, but you might need to talk to a speech therapist. I'm not one. I cannot give you that advice. The other thing I'll say is I'm not a professional voiceover artist. So my goal today is not to help you be a voiceover artist. My goal is to just help you feel more comfortable with the lovely thing that you have in you, which is your voice. Because again, as we said at the very beginning, if you're just joining us, it's your voice. It's the way you sound, and it is awesome the way it is. You carry the understanding, the authority that you have on whatever topic you're going to be making a video about. So use it. You might not love it, and you don't have to love the way you sound coming through the speakers. But trust me, it's the way we hear you anyway. So go ahead and just embrace it the best you can. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get with it. So, Collins does say some voiceovers will push you away from the video. That's true. I think here's the thing that I've found, and I've just my own personal experience is that if I want a topic, I'll sit through bad quality video, but audio can be tough if it doesn't sound. And when I say sound good, if it's noisy, it's distracting. But like if someone, unless their voice is really, really horrid, which I've not met that person yet. I'm going to sit and listen if they got good information for me. So I understand what you're saying, but again, in these times, I say that let's embrace it. because you can get better. You can practice. You can take the techniques that we're talking, some of the techniques and more, and you can get a little bit better. Grant, thanks for posting again about your question here. Is it better to just speak voiceover? Thinking about this, how to narrate the voiceover so it's not so boring, some mundane. I get bored with my own voice when listening to my VOs. So this is interesting, right? Like in this video, I'm literally we're going off the cuff. It's live. I've got notes, but I'm not scripted. And it can be challenging if you don't know what you're talking about. You can tell stories that aren't interesting, whatever. Totally agree. I think if you're really looking to control the experience, it comes down to really solid outlines of what you're going to say and or really thinking about a script, right? Like if you think about a lot of, I guess, really professional things, they've probably written it out. If you're really good and you've practiced, you don't have to write it out. You can go off the cuff and make it more engaging. I think might be a stretch of an example, but I'll go with it because I think it's right now, top of my head, it's the best I've got. If you think about comedy, the comedians that are out there doing stand-up comedy, we're not trying to be funny necessarily, but what they're doing is they're always testing and refining the things that they're going to say. We don't necessarily have time to do that, like ad nauseum. We're not going to go test it 12 times before we say like, okay, that's the script we're going to use. That's how we're going to tell this story. So, but we have the ability to write. And as we go, each time we do it, learn from the last time. Maybe the first one you do is going to be not great. First videos usually aren't. Second one, can you get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better? So I think controlling the language through scripting can be really helpful, or just really know what you're going to talk about and know kind of where you're going to go so that you're not lingering in one thing too long. And, and that's a skill and that's a hard balance to figure out. As I'm figuring this out now. It's been a long time since I've gone live. We're starting to do this more regularly. I've got stuff to learn. And I hope that next time you guys tune in, which will, if you're on YouTube next Thursday, I hope that I'm a little bit better than this time. And I can tell you already, this time is already better than the last time. So I think it's a lot of that control is practicing, evaluating, and figuring out like what's the right amount of information. So good question. I don't know if I answered it for you, but something I want to think about some more too, and maybe we can find a way to communicate about that, or next Thursday I'll maybe mention it. So any suggestions to lessen loud breathing? Mike, yeah. So as a stereotypical person, I probably eat too much, don't exercise enough, and basically I'm not in shape enough. Loud breathing, you get excited, you get worked up. I'm probably feeling it a little bit right now. You've got to basically take the time to take care of your body. Again, I think some posture comes in there. If you're going to do video that you can edit, there's a technique that I use. So let me do, I don't know if I have anything right here that I can read. Let me read your comment as if I was going to do voiceover. What I do basically, I'll explain it and then I'll do it, is I'll take a breath. I'll hold it for just like a half second, because that's my breathing point. Then I'll say whatever phrase or line I'm going to say, and then I pause, and then I'll breathe out. Now that means I'm going to have to edit it. That's not always ideal, but so for instance, Jason's got a question, and I'll just read his question if I was going to do this as a voiceover. Okay, so I'm going to breathe in. Any suggestions for what to do, what not to eat, drink prior to do? I messed up the line, but you get the idea. Then I breathe out. So I think that's one way to control breathing. The other thing is, again, sit up straight, keep the diaphragm open, stand up if you can, and then try to not get so worked up. It's hard to do. The other thing you might do, and I'm going to pop off camera just to grab this real quick. So you gotta get this. This is a pop filter. You can get one for like, I don't know, $10, $15 on Amazon, something like that. And I don't know if you can tell a difference when I put this up, but what it's going to do, it's going to catch all those plosive noises. It's not going to help if I'm really winded or anything, but it will block a little bit of that noise in the wind, so you don't get those as heavy of breath noises. So some microphones are better about having built-in stuff to help with that. Pop filters are good. The reason I don't have mine on is, one, it's from a camera perspective. It looks like I'm hiding my face, but two, I don't have the setup I have at home since we moved to work from home. I don't have a really great place for it right now. I do use this on a different microphone all the time though, because it's a lot more sensitive. So that's just another thing you can do with those breathing noises. Back to Jason's questions about what to eat, drink during voiceover. I definitely already talked about that. Avoid the dairy products, drink lots of water. Excuse me for a second. Do things that are going to help loosen up your voice. Caffeine's probably not actually the best. Soda's probably not the best. You don't want a bunch of bubbles. Speaking of breathing noises, you want to eat, do things that are going to help kind of clear your vocal cords and your throat and not get you all like I am a little bit right now. But that's just because I'm talking a lot. So that's the other reason water is really good. You want to keep those vocal cords nice and lubricated. Yep. So Grant just goes on confirming what Jason says. Jason's a great question. Find his throat sometimes closes up and my mouth waters. Yeah. The other thing I've heard, like some peppermint spearmint gum before, you can chew that before. You don't want to chew it during because you don't want the mouth noises, but you want things that are going to provide you with enough, keep you from tightening up and drying out. So great questions, guys. Really appreciate everybody jumping in with these questions and helping move things along. Jane David says, and I was trying to think of what it was, Jane. Thank you for saying it. It's a green apple. It's good. Has the pectins in it that will, help you get rid of some of your mouth noises. And so again, Jason, thank you for stopping in. He's stepping out again. Jason, Vlad, and Daniel Foster are going to be doing office hours for Techsmith, Camtasia, and Snagit. You can join those. If you're looking for the links, you might want to just, if you're over on Twitter or Facebook or one of the places you'll find it, just search Techsmith office hours. We're doing those on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3. Right after this, there's 2 sessions going simultaneously, one for Camtasia, one for Snagit, and those guys are awesome, and they are going to be able to answer product-specific questions. This is, meant to be much more of a kind of, we're talking about concepts and less about product. So definitely check it out. Going through my notes here, a couple other things I want to talk about that can affect the way you sound. One of them, and I think what we'll do, I'm going to bring some stuff up here. I'm going to bring up my system preferences. So I'm on a Mac, so it's slightly different kind of how you get to it, but the idea is and concept is the same. One of the things you're going to want to look at, and once I get this brought up, I'm going to share my screen here. Just give me a second. One of the things you might want to look at is the level that your screen is, or your microphone is picking up at. So what you can see here, hopefully on screen, is I've got my different microphone input options. I'm using a Yeti stereo microphone. And then you've got your volume input, right? Like you've got, this is how much, kind of like a level control for my speaking here. And you can see it's showing me an input level, the kind of the meter, if you will. As the meter goes up and down, as I speak louder, sorry about that, it goes all the way up here. And you don't want it to always go up to the full amount because it's going to sound distorted. So what you want to do is look at your microphone. Some microphones I found I have to take this input volume and go pretty high, just so it sounds at a good level. The other thing you want to be careful about is if you go too low, it's going to sound very different, which you don't want. I don't want to change my voice here, but you can see it's not getting nearly high. So I'm going to bring that back up. And so you want to find that right balance. Every microphone I found is a little bit different. And so just consider that as another way to help do that. So on a Windows machine, it's the same idea. There's going to have recording levels that you can adjust up and down to make sure that you're getting a good level input. It's not a big thing, but if you're worried about your voice already, You want people to be able to hear clearly. You don't want your audio to be distorted. And so definitely keep that as one of your kind of practices that you're going to do to set up your audio before you record, because we want to hear your lovely voice. We don't want it to get lost, be too low or too loud and not sound good. So, thanks, Grant. Appreciate the compliment. Definitely appreciate it. Got another question. I get stressed every time I start recording, especially when I do a mistake, and at the end, I cancel it all. Boy, if I had $1 for every time I felt stressed at the beginning of recording, I would be pretty darn well off. I don't get $1 every time I make a mistake and get stressed. It's pretty common. One of the things I've had to practice a lot, and it's just sheer practice, is, and I did this earlier, is I get started and then I get going really fast. Boom, 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 boom. Like I just, because I'm so excited to say everything I got to say, and I get, again, my voice goes up in the elevation, and I go like, da, da, da. You got to practice slowing down. And if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. Here's the thing. You can, depending on what you're recording in, more than likely you can edit it out. You can get rid of it. What I find is if I make a mistake during a recording, it doesn't work with live, but what you can do, you're going to just like snap your fingers in front of the microphone or clap. You're going to create a spike on your audio waveform, which is when you look at your recording, there's lots of free audio tools out there like Audacity. You can do this in Camtasia. You'll see that waveform and you'll see the spike. And that's just a reminder like, oh, I made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes when they're talking, right? Because nobody's perfect. Just a little joke. Nobody's perfect, right? Really, nobody's perfect. Professional voiceover artists, yes, there's probably times when they nail it in one take, but that's the exception more than the rule. It's okay to make mistakes. When you're going live, if that's the problem and you're worried about the way your voice sounds because you're in front of your students, think about when, like if you're doing this in front of a live audience and you make a mistake, what would you do? Would you stop? No, you just carry on, right? You just, oops, I made a mistake. I said that, or you'd correct yourself like, oh, no, I didn't mean to say blue. I meant to say green, or whatever the mistake is. So it is stressful being on camera. Next week, we're gonna talk a little bit about that. I think the camera part of it versus the audio part of it. But I definitely understand. So, but embrace the mistake, or know that you have the ability to go back and edit it. That's really the good news. So, great question. So we've adjusted our audio levels. We've talked about posture. We've talked about our voice. We need to trust it. It is a perfectly acceptable voice. You're going to be good. You might not ever be Morgan Freeman or some professional voiceover artist, but I don't think we need to. It was interesting, just an anecdote here, that last night my daughter is a senior in high school. She's in an AP calculus class. School has been shut down for now. We don't really know when things are going to go back, but she still has to take the AP calculus exam. And so last night, the teacher was having a group session to walk through problems and practice because they still got to keep going. And it was interesting. He didn't have a professional setup. He was just at home, and all the kids were at their houses. She was in our living room with the computer, but it was fine. It sounded perfectly good. The instruction was good. Like, I didn't understand a lot of it. Honestly, it was a lot of letter soup, but it's been a while since I've had calculus. But she did, and she got things that she needed from that time. And just because he wasn't doing a voiceover, and he made mistakes, he had computer problems, but they were still able to convey the information. So I think one of the big things I want you guys to take away, especially in these times when we're trying to maybe up our output in digital formats, whether it's a Zoom meeting, GoToMeeting, a pre-recorded screencast with like Snagit or Camtasia or something else. The idea is you're going to recognize your voice. They're going to hear the expertise in it. They're going to understand that you know what you're talking about. And that's really the value. And if it's got you got some lisping going on or a little bit of slurring, only for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons, slurring, or whatever it might be, it really will be okay. Should you try to work on make it a little bit better? Yeah, you should. But that's part of the fun, right? We get to learn to improve our craft and what we do. So just checking my comments here. Je prends soin de moi. Fake it till you make it. Absolutely. I hope I didn't slaughter the name too badly. It's been a long time since I did any kind of French. Kevin says, say, Luke, I'm your father. See how that sounds. Yep. We can get close to the microphone. Luke, I am your father. You can play with your voice too, but I don't think we need to. My goal is not the fun YouTube of like, oh, let's make funny videos. We're talking about professional use cases here. Be you. If you've got some exceptional talent that allows you to do stuff and you can work that in with a good business clarity, awesome. Otherwise, just be you. That's what this is all about. So absolutely, folks. So, well, we are getting close on time. So if you got any last questions, we got about 15 minutes we can run through. If you got any other questions you want to know about VoiceOver, please let me know. If you have topics that you would like to see in future live videos, we're gonna try to do this every week for a couple weeks now at least, and see how it goes. And if this is helpful, we'll keep doing it. But we want to make sure we're covering some of the basic topics. Mostly if you're brand new to this idea of screen recording, video creation, using images, we want to focus on some of the really basic stuff because it's a stressful time. And if you're being thrown, like saying, hey, go work at home now, and by the way, here's some tools, and we need to do this now all digitally remotely, it can be tough. Not everyone has the benefit of working at a software company, getting exposed to new technology all the time. So we want to make sure that you are being served. And if you're an expert YouTuber or you're, making your career doing videos already, this might not be for you, but we're happy to have you along and sharing thoughts and inputs for whatever it might be. So a couple other questions here that are coming in. Russ Moore asks, so advice is get over it. A big part of it is yes. Unfortunately, these are the voices we have. Get over it. It's good advice. I found that for myself. I remember hearing my voice early on, just didn't like it. I didn't come by this way of, I was an instructional designer, got a job at Techsmith making tutorial videos where I had to use my voice. In fact, early on, one of my first tutorials at Techsmith I was going to make, I was told I wasn't going to do the voiceover because my voice was too Midwestern. It didn't sound good. And I think I meant by that a little too nasally. But I persisted, kept going, found myself doing lots of different types of things. Am I the first person to get called for the voiceover work? No. Nope. And that's okay. That's not my goal. My goal is to communicate authentically with you, and this is my real voice. So Russ, you nailed it on the head. Kevin asked, do you recommend editing video or just go with it as is? Good question. I think it's a lot of it depends, which I know isn't a great answer when you're asking and you want to know. I think it depends on your audience. I think it depends on the subject matter. Like this video, we will probably edit the kind of the beginning and end stuff. That's just kind of some information we want to share, but we'll just use it as is, warts and all, mistakes and all, because that's what we're trying to move fast. We have lots of tutorial videos that we put out for our products that we will definitely edit those, or marketing videos that we'll definitely edit, because we want them to be cleaner, clearer, and we want them to have a little bit more polish. So I think it depends on your audience and what you're trying to convey. I'd also think about their time. How much time do they have? Do they have time to sit through everything, or do they have time do you need to speed it up for them? And if you need to speed it up for them, editing can be a way to do that. So it just kind of depends. Next question. How do you get a consistent sound when recording at different times? Richard, yeah, that's a really good question. And there's a lot that probably goes into that I probably need to learn even, because so basically the question is this: if you record in the morning, how do you make it sound like you're recording at night or in the evening or afternoon, some other time of the day? Because throughout the day, our voice is going to change and alter, right? Like, later tonight, because I've been talking a lot for this last hour, I probably sound a little bit different than I do right now, which is different than I sounded this morning. I'm not sure if I have a strong answer on this. I think the one is try to find your cadence and your pacing and your sound. Making sure you're doing all the things that you need to do, knowing that there's going to be slight variations anyway. And I think I try to do, like, if I'm making a video, I try to do all the voiceover for it in one sitting or setting, rather than, like do parts of it here and there throughout the day or through a week or month. So that's probably the best thing to do, is like per video is record your script at the one time. But I do think there's allowance there. Again, thinking about your audience, unless you're really doing professional voiceover and you're a character actor or something like that, it's, learning to control your voice a little bit, right? Like, and knowing that there's going to be variation. Like, I'm guessing that I will sound enough the same that, like right now as I do when I go live next week. It will be pretty consistent. If you're really worried about it, it's practice. It's a lot of making sure you're doing all the right things, drinking water, eating the right things like that. So good question. Sorry, it's not maybe a more in-depth answer, but I think it's an important one. I just say record your video, give one at a go. And if it's going to be too much, try to do it similar times when your voice is feeling consistent. Just going through some of the questions. Consistent sound, talked about that. Editing audio is a bit easier, but video takes a bit more. That's why I ask. Yeah, I get it. What I normally do with audio is I record. If I'm going to build my video, I'm not doing it live like this. I record my audio, edit it, and then I build my video to it. So that just makes my life a lot easier. I think that's the easiest process. I know others do it the other way, but I think editing audio is easy unless you got a mistake in the middle of a phrase or word, or a phrase or sentence. Then you got to cut out something. That's tough. Lots of flexibility with video, even though it's kind of technically harder. You have some library or all videos on YouTube. We have most of our videos on YouTube. You can also go to techsmith.com. Up in the resource section, you'll be able to find the tutorials for our products, but also techsmith.com/academy. There's free videos there as well. That's a free platform for teaching things like script writing, storyboarding, how to get better audio in the environment you're in, and a variety of other topics as well. Another question from Russ. Sorry if you covered this earlier, but is there a minimum standard for microphones we should be using, or is it like voice, use what you got? My answer to this question was different a couple weeks ago. I would have told you, you've got to go get a microphone. And I still think if you can get a microphone, your company can buy a microphone, you can buy a microphone, get a microphone. I like the Yeti. I think it sounds good. I don't think it's for everybody. You get yourself a good headset, get something. Your built-in microphone isn't the best usually, but given the circumstances that we're under, if you're in a situation where you're thrown like, oh no, we all got to work at home. It's locked down. You can't go out, but we still need to do something. And you're going to use video, use what you got until you can level up. But I do recommend having a microphone is going to make a difference. I think it makes a difference just to the overall quality and experience, which is important. But in these circumstances today, with everything going on in the world, I'd say for the short term, use what you got, make it the best you can. But if you're going to continue doing it, purchase a microphone. You can find a USB microphone that's going to plug into your laptop or to your desktop. And they're going to run anywhere from $60 to $100+ I mean, you can spend a lot of money on a microphone if you want, but like the Yeti runs about $120. You can get it on sale for usually $99. The Blue, the company that makes the Yeti, has multiple microphones that are good. Audio-Technica makes a really good microphone. Shure makes, there's lots of brands out there. Use the one, whatever one you're going to use, and then learn how to use it properly. Where is it going to pick up? What is the setting that it's going to have on it for the microphone? This one's kind of got this heart-shaped thing that's going out here. It can do like stereo and all sorts of other things. And then play with it and adjust it as needed. But so use what you got but then if you're going to do more than a couple, really consider getting a different microphone. It will make a difference. I think it will make you feel better. And if anything else, if nothing else, you're going to feel cool, right? Like, because you got a cool looking microphone. That's going to look good. So good question. Yeah, Kevin, agree with you. Mic can make a big difference in sound and amount of post-production. Yep, it helps. But again, look at your circumstances. Do what you need to for the short term, but go for the long term. Mehdi asked about hot or cool water. I think I think a lot of people, like I know singers prefer warm. You don't want too hot, but you know, like a warm water. Cool water, I mean, if that's all you got, but I think what happens with cool water, and this is a little cool, it's going to constrict more, but just like when you, I learned this the hard way recently about veins, and when you're hot and you're warm, you know, the cold will constrict, which will restrict your vocal cords. So you want to have that kind of probably more warm. It can be lukewarm to, I wouldn't do hot though, but that will help. That's probably the optimal, you know, but if you don't do that and you just add water to what you're doing, that's better than nothing at all. Okay. So definitely think about that. So, Kevin says he uses the Rode NT USB. I'm not familiar with that particular model, but Rode is a good brand. I've used them for other things. I have a really nice wireless lapel set that I've used for videos that I like. Richard asks, I have a Yeti, but I'm looking for something better. I might go with a dynamic mic. I've heard the Samson Q2U is a good low-cost mic. I'm not familiar with the Samson mic. I can't know every microphone. Samson, another good brand. A lot of great brands out there. I've used an SE brand microphone. The biggest thing is it's not USB, but it sounds really great. We did a blog post on Techsmith.com's blog, and it was about kind of we just tested all the microphones we could get our hands on, and it was actually my favorite one, the SE. I don't remember the exact model number, but it was great. But you had to have a mixer, right? And so I've got like a little mixer here. I'm going to reach out of camera for a second. See if I can pull this up. I've got just a little mixer. This is way more than you probably need, but I can plug in an XLR microphone in here, and then it goes out through
I'm having trouble understanding right now.
Oh, there's Alexa thinking I was talking to her. So, but anyways, this is advanced. If you've got the experience with a microphone, there's lots of controls, cool things you can do with that, but you don't need to go that. The reason I recommend USB is simply the fact that you can plug it in, and for the most part, you're ready to go with a few minor adjustments. So for most people, it works really well, but lots of good mics out there. You just got to keep looking around. So, well, everybody, here we are. We've taken it. You spent an hour with me. I appreciate everybody joining in with us today. Hopefully you picked up at least a few tips. If nothing else, hopefully you're feeling more confident about your voice and the way you sound. Just embrace it. That's all we can do is just embrace the way we are. Learn some good technique. Stand up, open up your diaphragm, breathe, take a breath, and slow down, and you'll be fine, because we really want you to embrace that voice. And, you know, again, get current circumstances, do what you got to do to make your content, and then keep leveling up. That's what we want you to do. Level up every single day you're making video, whether it's a screen video, camera video, selfie video, we don't care. Just level up your video. The last thing I'll say here is, in terms of a couple things I want you to be aware of, again, we've got our office hours for Camtasia and Snagit coming up at 3. We do them again on Tuesdays in the morning, Eastern time. So if that's a better time for you, Jason Vlad and Daniel Foster will be talking about Camtasia and Snagit in 2 different separate chats in Zoom, but you can go get your product help there. I do recommend you go check out Techsmith Academy. That's at www.techsmith.com/academy. It's a free learning platform where we teach you things like lighting and storyboarding and audio and all sorts of other things to help you make better video and images. And we'll also be back next week on Thursday. We're going to do it same time, same channel. So if you've got something that you want to see me cover or talk about, leave us a note. Let us know so we can focus our attention on things that are going to help you guys be the most successful. The last thing I'll mention, and you'll see this on I'll play the kind of our post roll, a couple of different announcements, but Techsmith is offering 90-day versions of Snagit and video review for free. Snagit is a screen capture tool. It does also lightweight video recording, so you can capture what's on your screen. You can turn on the webcam. You can capture your audio. And then Video Review is a video hosting site where you can upload your videos that you've made and then have real-time kind of conversations around it via chat. It's super cool. One of my favorite things about it is on the player, when someone leaves a comment, usually it's meant for feedback, but you can do it for all sorts of things. It puts it right on the point so you always know exactly what they're talking about. It's got some light annotation tools so you can draw, like, oh, I saw something in your video. What was this? And it's pretty cool. So go check that out if you're being affected by what's happening around the world with COVID and you're trying to get your business to be having continuity, your education institution is needing some help. go get it. You can find that on Techsmith.com just if you just search for COVID-19, or it will be, I'll give a bit.ly here again in just a second. So thanks everybody. We hope that you guys all stay safe, and don't forget, level up every day. So we will see you guys next time, I hope.